Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Sty Times. Yeah, tonight's kind of special. We're going to talk about Christmas trees tonight. Yeah, yeah. We're going to talk about Christmas trees you'll never forget, right? Yeah, I think we'll have fun with this topic. I need to shout out those folks that come in the chat early. The Okay, right there, Kathy Gahan, right from the get-go, jumped in and said hello. And Metal Music Maniac, he jumped in there. He's talking in there about the old original tinsel when they first came out with it, that they hadn't thought it through too well. The old original tinsel was actually made out of like tinfoil, and it conducts electricity. And you got the old string lights that we used to have, kind of risky business. Yeah, we'll get into stuff like that. Hey, look at here. There's Kimberly Ferris. Oh, it's great to see you, Kimberly. And we'll go down here a little bit. See you. There's Kayla. Great to see you, Kayla. Oh, yeah. And there's me, Devil. Awesome. Hello. There's Hunting and Stuff with J&J. It's great to see you, buddy. So we got a good crew out there chatting away out there in the chat. Yeah, I want to get right into this topic because I tell you what, I could go on for hours. I am one of those people where Christmas trees, you'll never forget. I've had several, but I've been around for 65 years. So yeah. So that's, I can remember back till I was all the way back to when I was 4 years old. That's really the earliest memory I have. Anything before 4 is pretty sketchy. And even at 4, there's only things they had to really stand out. Oh, I see Gemma's Journey Grace just popped in. Great to see you, Gemma. But that means I've had 60 years of exposure to Christmas trees, right? So that's a minimum of 60 Christmas trees that I can recall. And I say minimum because there were some years where I'd have 2 or 3 trees in a single year that really stuck with me. I'll tell you what. I love Christmas trees. I love Christmas trees. Why do I love them so much? It's because of Christmas trees. I can squeeze a story out of just about anybody. Just about anybody. Anybody that celebrates Christmas and they have Christmas trees, I can squeeze a story out of them. I've had people tell me, I don't have a story. I've had the most boring life you've ever seen. Nothing has ever happened in my life that's story worthy, nothing at all. And if it's around this season, I'll say to them, oh, yeah. Well, I got to tell you a story. And I'll tell them one of my experiences with a Christmas tree. And sure enough, a person that has no stories to tell will all of a sudden say, I remember this one Christmas, this tree that we had, and I got them. I just reeled them in. Don't tell me you don't have a story. Don't tell me you have a story. Sometimes they're not the nicest stories about a Christmas tree, but it brings a story out of a person. Me Dibble says, I love burning them after Christmas. There's a lovely smell, but I'm a bit strange. Oh, no. Oh, me Dibble, I'm telling you. My brother and I, for many years, we fought over who got to burn the tree and who got to burn the gift wrap, right? Our Christmases were always huge. And after all the gift opening, you had so much gift wrap to get rid of. And those were in the days when we had burning barrels out back of the place, and you burned everything. You burned all the paper garbage. And the Christmas tree, couple of nice big handfuls of that Christmas wrap in the barrel, and stick that Christmas tree in the barrel and light that wrap and step back and watch that bugger go up. Oh, I fought like heck. I wanted to be the Christmas tree burner, you know. The came out to install a second breaker box for you because Christmas lights are a high temp filament. Yeah. Hey, Anthony Bressler, great to see you. Hello. No need to call me sir. No need to call me sir. If I lived out in the country, I'd still have a burning barrel. Yeah, you betcha. I know a lot of people are against it. There's always somebody against everything, good, bad, or indifferent. There's always somebody against whatever you do. Tim from Kirk Whipper Voyage Center's just come in the house. It is so good to see you, Tim. For Gemma, Christmas makes her sad. Yeah, we talked about that for a couple of Christmases, and I try to cheer her up right around Christmas time. Just cheer her up a little. Christmas is tough for Gemma. Thanks, Anthony. That's cool. Yeah, no need to call me sir. But Christmas trees that you'll never forget. I've got so many that just bringing the topic up, boom, they're right there. I had some of the best experiences with Christmas trees and some of the worst nightmares at the same time. And I'm going to share some of those with you tonight. I'm going to tell you some tree tales, okay? And what I hope to do is trigger some of your memories in relation to Christmas trees. What is a Christmas tree of the past that you you'll never forget it? Think about it. Think about that for yourself, and then share that with somebody. It's a good time. Excuse me. Now, okay, where should I start? Well, I'll start when I was just a little fella. I believe I was 6 years old that year. My pop, he was one. Oh, he had to have a nice tree. We always had to have a really nice tree. Well, every year he'd get a tree that was different from the year before. So if we had a spruce, say a nice blue spruce last year, this year we're probably going to end up with maybe a fir, or we're going to end up with a Norway pine, long needle tree. You just never know, because he'd mix it up. Well, this year I'm talking about, we got a Norway pine, long needles, bushy, fat tree, just beautiful. Yeah, and Mom and Pop got it all decorated up, and those kids hanging all the decorations on it, and got it all done, and he plugged that bugger in. Now we're talking, oh Lordy, what would that have been? 1964? 1965, right in there somewhere. Well, the lights back then were these great big bulbs, You plug them buggers in, and within a minute, you couldn't touch one of them bulbs without getting a third-degree burn on your hand. You couldn't touch them buggers. They were so freaking hot. Our tree was just loaded with those, right? Heck, like my dad used to always say, I love Christmas time and the Christmas lights, because he'd leave the Christmas lights on all night. Supper time, plug the tree in. Breakfast time, unplug the tree. He left the tree on all night. It was beautiful. We loved it. The house was so Christmassy. And he said, with those Christmas lights on, the furnace doesn't run as often. And he was right. That tree put off so much heat. Well, my parents were pretty tolerant. I was the baby of the family, you know. And our sofa, the end of the sofa, would be right up to the tree. So I'd grab my blanket and pillow after everybody else goes to bed. I'd sneak out of my room with my blanket and pillow, and I'd go to the couch, and I'd put the pillow down at that end, and I'd lay there, and I'd just look at the ceiling and the room all lit up from that Christmas tree. And I'd sleep all night there on the couch. Heartside, it's great to see you out there in the chat, sweetie. Happy birthday to you yesterday. But anyway, I was sleeping by the Christmas tree one night, and something woke me up. And I laid there, and there was a noise that woke me up. I could hear this crackling sound, like a snapping, crackling sound. I turned and looked at that tree, and I'm going, yeah, that noise is coming from that tree. So I got up, and I got on the arm of the couch on my knees, and I'm looking in that tree and trying to figure out, where's that noise coming from? Where's it coming from? I finally figured it out. I reached in there. Now that tree is full of these lights going, right? I reached in there and I touched one of them bulbs and burnt myself. And I let out a little bit of a squawk, you know, that I burnt myself. And the bulb moved when I had touched it. And then I could see it, little wisps of smoke. Oh no, my tree's on fire. I ran into Mom and Pop's room. He's screaming, yelling, tree's on fire, tree's on fire. My dad come flying out of the bedroom. Oh my God, everybody get out of the house. I'll take care of it. He yelled at my mother, make sure the kids are out and grab me a bucket of water. And he unplugs that tree. And us kids, of course, we all run to the front of the house, turn and look back, you know, gonna watch. You know, as long as we're by the front door, we should be okay. Well, he unplugged that tree, and they turned the lights on in the living room. And he gets over by the tree, and you could see the smoke coming up through the tree. Sure enough, one of them bulbs had ignited the branch, and it was smoldering, and it hadn't gone to flame yet, but it was smoldering and smoking. And it's like my dad said, another 5-10 minutes. If I hadn't realized what was going on, another 5-10 minutes or so, that tree would have ignited. It would have gone to flame, and it would have gone up so fast, because when he was in there digging around, and then when he found it, he got a glass of water and managed to put it out. The tree was dead. It had dried out completely. If you touched it, the needles fell off. It was terrible. It was terrible. And the tree had only been up for about a week. It's the only tree we had that dried out so bad. But boy, was it bad. My dad was furious. Undecorate that whole tree. Take all the decorations off. By the time they got them all off, at least a fourth of the needles on this long needle, big pine, it's all on the floor. Oh, he's mad. So he's wrestling with the tree, trying to get the tree stand off of it. And the needles are just, it sounds like rain. And he goes, they're not going to quit falling off. He says, somebody hold that front door open. And he grabbed the tree stand and he headed for the front door with that tree, dragging it behind him. By the time he got out of the house, it was just branches with a few needles left. All the needles off of that tree. It was a big green trail from the corner of the living room, all the way across the living room, down the hallway and out the front door. Nearly every needle fell off that tree on the way out the door. You know what? That was a Christmas tree you'll never forget. But what really made it a tree that you never forget This is not, I am not kidding. I wish my mother was still with us, still alive, because I'd get her on camera. You tell him, Ma. Literally, I am not kidding you. Literally, 35 years after that incident, my mother, she would find needles of that tree and she'd save them in a baggie, a Ziploc bag, to show them off to us and say, remember that tree? That's how many needles fell off this dang thing. And they're the long needles, so you can't vacuum them. They won't vacuum. We used packing tape. First thing we did was try to sweep them up. And my mother did try vacuuming them, just about caught the vacuum cleaner on fire. And my dad came up with the wild idea. I know how to get them out of here. He went out the garage, came back with a garden rake, or with a lawn rake, leaf rake. That worked. That raked most of them up. But we were trying to get needles out of that carpeting in the living room for years. I have to shout out a few folks. I see Mr. Fulton is in the house. Hello, Mr. Fulton. The Simple Man's in the house. Great to see you. Great to see you. Saying hello to everyone. That's awesome. Mr. Fulton says it's National Ice Cream Day. What's my favorite flavor of ice cream? Yours? Whatever you're eating. I love ice cream, man. I love ice cream. I don't think there's an ice cream I don't like. Right now in my freezer, I've got root beer float ice cream. I like that. Yeah, I like that. I love root beer floats to start with, but the ice cream, yeah, I like that. And I've got mint chocolate chip in the freezer, and I've got blueberry cheesecake ice cream in the freezer, and Reese's peanut butter cup ice cream. Those are the 4 I got in my freezer right now. I eat my ice cream. I love my ice cream. We're going to get right back onto this topic. Now, that was for my dad. Oh, E-Waste Mike just came in the house. Great to see you. Great to see you. Thanks for sharing it out there, Gemma. E-Waste right away says, somebody say ice cream. He's an ice cream lover too. David DeRoca, good to see you. Do people ice fish on Black Lake? Oh, yeah. Yeah, they do. Yeah. Crappie fish, a lot. Good crappie fishing on that lake, and some northerns. And a few walleyes, yeah. But anyway, off topic. So anyway, Christmas trees, you'll never forget. I got to tell you this one try to make it as quick as I can. There was this old gal when I was, my pop passed away when I was 12 years old, and I started taking on little odd jobs everywhere I could, And there was this old gal in our neighborhood, and I saw her one day, and she's out by her little garage, and she's got a lawnmower out there, and she's trying to pull start that lawnmower. She couldn't even get it to turn over. She's so frail and little old gal. So I rode my bike down her driveway, and I said, "Excuse me, ma'am, but are you trying to start that lawnmower?" She goes, "I need to mow my lawn. Look at it. It's terrible." And I said, "Don't you have somebody to help you?" I said, "I don't think you could do that." And she said, "I have to. I have nobody. I don't have anybody. I don't have family or really any friends here." And she said, "I live by myself." So she said, "I have to do it." I said, "Actually, you don't." I said, "I can mow your lawn for you. I'll mow your lawn for you." Well, I didn't know a lot about her. I just would see her occasionally going to her mailbox and back and out in her yard occasionally. She messed around a little bit with a couple little tiny flower beds. So she said, "Well, there's some gas in it, but I don't have any other gas, the gas can is in the garage, but it's empty. Well, I took the cap off of the gas tank and I said, when's the last time this lawnmower was used? She says, oh, she said, almost a year ago. She says, that's why the yard's so terrible. I told her, I said, don't try to start her, and I'll be back. And I grabbed that gas can, rode my bike down at a local gas station, got a couple of gallons of gas, come back, dumped that old gas out of the lawnmower, put the fresh gas in, fired it right up. It fired right up. And I mowed her lawn. She was so thrilled. She was so thrilled. She gave me $2. Well, in 1969, $2 was quite a bit of money. That was a good haul. Most people were paying $4 to do their lawns, but I realized it didn't take much to realize she's on a fixed income. She doesn't have a lot of money. Otherwise, she'd hire one of the local guys that takes care of lawns. So I felt $2 was worth it. Well, it ended up being that I was doing things for her regularly. I'd go there twice a week, take out her trash from the house, take it out to the garbage can, blah, blah, blah. And I'd take care of her lawn. About every week and a half, I'd go over and I'd mow and trim around the house and stuff. And just did little odd maintenance things for her and help her out. And every once in a while, she'd give me $2. Not always. I knew she couldn't afford it anyway, but I enjoyed helping her. Well, then I got in the habit that I was stopping over there almost every day just to see if something needs to be done. I started grabbing her mail for her because the mail would come at about 11 o'clock in the morning, and I'd get over there usually close to noon, and then I'd run her mail up to the house and ask her if everything's okay. Yeah. Well, Christmas come along, that first Christmas, after I had helped her all summer long. And now I'm shoveling snow, right? Taking care of things during the winter. Now this is about a week before Christmas, and I stopped at her place. Oh, well, I would say it's more than a week. It was probably a couple of weeks before Christmas. Stopped at her house, brought her mail. I did that every day, bring her her mail. And I reminded her, during the winter, don't you go out and get your mail. Her sidewalks were slippery as sin, and her little driveway, I shoveled that out all the time, but that was slippery as sin, and that little old gal, I could just see her falling out there and getting hurt, you know. And I told her, don't you go get your mail. Let me bring it to you each day, okay? Okay, she promised me I won't go out and do that. So we're chatting. Well, I have to say real quick, Step Van Dan, hello, buddy, and JCT, it's great to see you. So anyway, I got to the house and I brought her mail. And I did notice, you know, it's that time of year. Almost everybody's getting Christmas cards, and like, there was nothing in her mail in the way of a Christmas card or anything. I brought her a mail. She answered the door. I couldn't help it. She says, come on in. I made myself a chocolate cake, and I can't eat all that chocolate cake. Come in and have a piece of cake. So I came in. Heck, she went and she fixed me homemade hot chocolate. And I sat there, had a piece of chocolate cake and drinking that hot chocolate and just chatting with her. And I noticed, I'm looking around her house. There's nothing Christmas at all. Nothing. No decorations, nothing. And I told her, I said, oh, you haven't decorated for Christmas yet. I was 12 years old. I'm kind of naive. You know? And she goes, no, I won't be decorating. And I said, well, why not? And she said, well, all my decorations are up in the attic. I got decorations for a tree and all that stuff. And I got knick-knacky stuff that you put out for Christmas, but it's all up in the attic, and I can't go up there and get it. There's no way. And I said, really? And she says, it's not a big deal. I haven't had anything down here for Christmas for 6 years now. Her husband had passed away 6 years earlier. I found that out. So he was the one going up bringing the Christmas stuff down. And she just didn't do it anymore. And I said, so you have nothing for Christmas here? She goes, no. And she said, other than you, I really, I know a few people, but we're not friends really. And she said, and I only have one family member, and that's my daughter, and she lives in California, and I haven't even spoken to her for over 2 years. Well, when I left her, I felt so doggone bad. And I was heading to my buddy's house. So I went over to my buddy's. Well, his dad, during the Christmas season, he flocked trees. You know what flock trees are? They take a live tree and you spray this flocking stuff on them. And they, oh man, they're pretty. Oh, they're really cool. And he was top notch in that neck of the woods. He was selling those trees in 1969 for $65 a piece. That's how in demand they were from him. And me and my buddy are chatting his dad, and we're watching his dad flock a tree. And he's got this big shop, and he's got like 15 beautiful flock trees in there that are waiting for the customer to come pick them up because you had to pre-order, Well, he heard me telling my buddy about this old gal and that she doesn't have Christmas because she can't get her decorations out of the attic, blah, blah, blah. I told him the whole thing. So his dad, all of a sudden, he goes, well, that tree's good enough. And he comes over and he goes, Sty, he says, come here, I want to show you something. We walk to the back of his shop, and in the corner, here's this beautiful, about 7 foot tall Christmas tree that he had flocked, and he started at the center, the trunk of the tree, with a very light pink flocking, and he flocked out to the tips, right? And then he outer flocked it with snow white. It was beautiful. I mean, you could barely see that pink in there, but it was there, and it just kind of really made the white pop out more. It was a beautiful tree, man. It was awesome. And I can see why he got $65 for him. Plus, he guaranteed his trees for 2 seasons. If you put the tree away at the end of the season the way he requires you to, you bring the tree back to him, and he hangs them in that shop upside down, and they're bagged up. And you come get your tree the next season. He guarantees his trees for 2 years. If the tree's no good the second year, he gives you a free one. Yeah, he is a good businessman. So excellent, excellent trees. And he says, what do you think of that tree? I said, I think it's awesome, man. That's a pretty tree. I said, I bet they paid a lot of money for that. And he says, I can't sell it. And I go, what do you mean you can't sell it? He says, I wanted to try flocking this way. And so I tested it on this tree, and I used pink. And he says, I've made blue ones, I've made red ones, and I've made with a tint of green in it, light green. And I've used all different colors. And those trees sell like hotcakes. This pink one, nobody seems to want to buy. I couldn't figure that out. And he goes, and I said, well, you might have to reduce the price, eh? And he goes, I just did. I said, what do you mean you just did? How much is it? And he goes, well, you can't get it now because I already gave it away. And I said, oh, you gave it away? He says, yeah, I gave it away. And I said, that's a bummer. And he says, won't be a bummer for the person I gave it to. So he had me He bagged that tree up and he says, have fun, because I'm not delivering. He gave me that tree to give to that old gal. So they were about 3/4 of a mile away from where that old gal lived. I dragged that damn tree down the road 3/4 of a mile to her house. Got to her house, knocked on the door. She answered it. And she goes, what are you doing back here? I said, you're going to have a Merry Christmas. And she said, oh, yeah, just like, yeah. She didn't want to disappoint me kind of thing. I said, no, I'm serious. Look what I got. And she looked out on the sidewalk. She goes, what's that? I said, I've got you a Christmas tree. She goes, oh, Lord, I can't get the decoration. I said, don't worry about it. It's all covered. Take care of it. I drug that tree in her house, stood it up. Thank God she had 9-foot ceilings in her living room, because that was a 7-foot tree. I stood it up and I took the bag off of it, and she couldn't frickin' believe it. She says, I don't know if I even want to put decorations on it. I said, you're going to put your decorations on it. I said, we're going to have fun just going through all your decorations, because you haven't even seen them in 6 years. So I'm going up in the attic, get that stuff. Well, with everything good, something bad's got to come along with it, right? So I'm up in the attic, and thank goodness every box was marked Christmas, Christmas, Christmas. So I knew what was Christmas stuff, and I'm moving it all to the hatch door to get out of the attic. Moved it all, and I'm stepping across the rafters, to haul that stuff out. Last box, and it was kind of heavy. And I grabbed that box, and I stepped off the rafter with both feet onto the ceiling. Straight through the damn ceiling. Right up to my armpits. Attic rafter on each arm, holding me from falling all the way to the floor of the living room. Right below where that tree's sitting downstairs. Right through her damn ceiling. I crawled out of there, managed to get everything, and then I got it all out of the attic, and I walk in the living room. She's sitting in the corner of the room in her chair, easy chair, and she's got this shocked, scared look, and she goes, are you okay? I said, I'm fine. I said, but look at your ceiling. Well, all I could do was clean up the hole a little bit, and I found a big sheet of cardboard, and she had a spray can of white paint in her garage, and I brought it in the house, got it warmed up, shook her up, and sprayed that cardboard white, and took some thumbtacks and stuck it over the hole in her ceiling. And then we broke into her Christmas decorations. She had decorations that were over 60 years old. They were from the turn of the century. Some of them were prior to 1910. They were family heirlooms handed down generation after generation. They were beautiful. A lot of them handmade, blown glass, beautiful stuff. And she hung that on that pink tree. She had a couple of strings of lights, and they were the old hot ones. And I was nervous about that flock tree. I didn't know. So I told her, hang tight. And I ran back to my buddy's house, talked to his dad, and I came back and I said, good news. The guy that flocks these trees said those hot lights aren't going to be a problem, because the flocking he used is a fire retardant. Don't have to worry about the tree catching fire. We plugged that tree in, and it was absolutely beautiful. About a week later, it was just maybe a day before Christmas Eve, my mother says, here, take this plate of cookies down to her. We know she spends Christmas alone, and take this plate of Christmas cookies down to her, would you? And I said, oh yeah, sure. So I run down there, and I grabbed her mail, and I knocked on the door, and I said, I got your mail and a plate of cookies. She goes, oh no, I don't know where to put those cookies. She goes, oh, those are so nice. She says, come in here, come in here. I came in, and in her kitchen, she had this big round kitchen table. That whole table was covered with plates of cookies, sweet breads. There was food on the stove. She said, Out of the blue, people started showing up with Christmas candy and cookies and cakes and breads, and they even brought me dinner. And I said, "What? You gotta be kidding." She says, "No." And I asked them, "Why in the earth would you do that?" And they said, "Well, the word is out that you spend Christmas alone, but you've got the prettiest Christmas tree in town." They all wanted to see her tree. And she said I would bring them in and let them see the tree. And I insist they've got to take not what they brought me, but what others brought me. Everybody's got to have a cookie. Somebody's got to have sweetbread. She says, "I'm trying to get this used up." She became famous for a day. And it was sad. It was sweet and sour because she had the best Christmas. And afterwards, we undecorated her tree, and I hauled it back down to my buddy's dad's place, and they hung it up in the shop with her name on it. The following year, I had stopped at her house, and we had some bad snow and shoveled the sidewalk. And I hadn't turned 13 yet. And I shoveled the sidewalk in the driveway. And I had her mail, gave her her mail. And I told her, I fell on my butt 2-3 times. It was so icy out there. And I told her, "You stay in the house. Don't you go out there." Because I would make grocery runs for her. The little grocery store was only about 5 blocks away. And I would get her groceries for her every week, you know. So, well, hello, Mojo. Mojo's out in the chat. So I told her, I said, don't leave the house. Don't go out there for any reason. I'll do anything that needs to be done outside. You stay in the house. I went down there the next day at about 11:45 in the afternoon, noontime. Going to grab her mail and take it up to the house for her and check on her. And I get there, and I walked down the sidewalk. The way the sidewalk was, there were snowbanks, and you really couldn't see the sidewalk from the street. You had to kind of walk down her driveway a little ways, then you turned onto the sidewalk, and it made a 90-degree turn and went to the house. So I head down the sidewalk with her mail. I get to that 90-degree, take the corner, and there she is, laying in the sidewalk. And all she's wearing is a dress that comes down just below her knees, these old beat-up winter boots, a thin pair of gloves, and a sweater. No scarf or anything. And she's got a letter in her hands. She had a letter she wanted to go out in the mail that she wrote early that morning. But she wanted it to go out that day. And she thought, it's just to the mailbox and back. So she headed out to the mailbox at 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, the mailman doesn't come until after 11. Well, from where the mailbox is, you can't see down the sidewalk. She fell on the way out to the mailbox. Mailman came, put the mail in the mailbox, and moved to the next place. Never saw her laying in the sidewalk. I told her, I took my coat off and put it on her, and I said, "You don't move, don't move." She says, "I can't, my leg hurts too bad, I can't move it." I said, just don't move. I ran to her house, went in the house, got on the phone, called the police, and they said, "We'll get over there right away with an ambulance." It took about 20 minutes. This is in 1960, the winter of 69, 70. Took about 20 minutes for the ambulance to show up. It was only about 5 minutes to have a police officer show up. And I talked to her till the ambulance got there. And she told me what she was doing and why she fell. And she had broken her hip, and there was no way she was going to get up. But she had laid there for 4 hours. It was 5 degrees above zero. 5 degrees is all it was. They got her in the ambulance, and she passed away on the way to the hospital. They tried to recover. They tried. They did their best. Couldn't save her. Well, her daughter flew out within a couple days from California. Take care of things, you know. So that's the first time I ever met her. And she said, is there anything you know of that my mother's got that isn't here at the house? And I said, a Christmas tree. She went with me over to my buddy's house. We went in the shed. And I told her, that's it right there. It's got her name on it. And we took the bag off, and she saw that tree. She said, I'll take care of that. I'll take care of that. And I said, good, good. I found out just before Christmas, found out she had donated it to the hospital that tried to save her mother. And they had it in their hospital lobby. So that everybody that came and went from that hospital got to enjoy that tree one last time. So there's a tree you'll never forget, right? Right? That's why I say Christmas trees all have stories that go with them. They all have stories. Now, I went way over halftime. I've got to do this for my channel members. I mean, they deserve the support. This takes less than a minute. Don't go anywhere, guys. I'll be right back. Some great folks there. Yeah, they're awesome. My members, my channel members, they're awesome. The yeah. Now there is excuse me. There is those Christmas trees that excuse me, I'm trying to do something here. Okay. Oh, thank you. Okay. But there's those Christmas trees that you don't forget because they stood out so much. Now, I remember I was a young kid at the time, maybe 8 years old, 7, 8 years old. And my mom, you know, we went to this little small town church, you know, and oh boy, shake them kids out early Sunday morning and drag your butt to church, right? Off to church we go. Well, our church, they really got into Christmas, Well, we had a new pastor, and his wife was very modern for the time, like 1972, something like that. No, it wasn't that. No, it was much earlier, 1966, 67. And she considers herself a very modern person, right? Well, and she always said, things are going to change around here. Folks have to kind of catch up with the times, Everybody seemed okay with it, except when it came to Christmas. So we head to church, and always at our church, the Sunday after Thanksgiving Day, that's when the church has its big Christmas tree put up towards the front of the church, just off to the side of the pastor's podium up there. So everybody looked forward to that first Sunday with the big Christmas tree. We all get to church, and we're all packed in the chapel, and we're all in there, and we're all just like, what the heck? Here she's got one of them tinsel trees. Dang thing. The whole thing looks like tinsel, It's all aluminum tinsel-y stuff. All the branches, And she's got blue garland on it and a bunch of different lights and stuff. And this thing's just giant and silver, just bright silver. And we're all like, is that our Christmas tree at church? Wow. We weren't used to seeing stuff like that. And none of us were quite too sure about it. But then people are chatting, going, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. It's unique. It's, and they're just trying to be positive, right? Well, at the front of our church, there's these two big spotlights, right? And they come on just as the pastor comes up to his podium. So it's all lit up there. The choir behind him and stuff. It's all lit up. And there he is, right? They turn those two spotlights on. Everybody in that congregation is going, oh my gosh, oh, and they're looking, I can't look. You couldn't see the pastor, for crying out loud. Preacher's up there, and it's like he's standing behind the sun. Those spotlights hitting that stage there where that tree was standing in front of it, just off to his side. He didn't see it because the spotlights are on the other side, shining towards him. So he didn't see what was happening. And he didn't have a clue, and he just went on with his sermon. And we're all out in the audience going, oh my God, we can't stand it. We can't stand it. It's so bright. Those lights were hitting that tree, and it was just like a mirror, and it's shooting all that light right back at us. So we're just like, we're looking right into those spotlights. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. Everybody was good out in the audience about it, right? Yeah, we're grumbling a bit, but people were controlling themselves. So after the service, then the mumbling really started. Boy, people are mumbling and grumbling about that tree. That tree's got to go. Man, that thing, yeah, it ain't right. It ain't right. And they're being so polite to the pastor and his wife as they're leaving the church, right? The next Sunday, when we come into church, I brought my summer sunglasses, kids' sunglasses with. And my mother said, you're not wearing those in church. I said, but Ma, I can't stand that tree. I got a headache last week. She said, well, we'll see how bad it is. Got in the church, and what? Lo and behold, this beautiful spruce tree, and it's all decorated up nice. It was really pretty, dark green, beautiful spruce tree. My mother, when we got home after church that day, said that she talked to the pastor, and the pastor had told her he wasn't aware that the whole congregation was suffering. And she told him, well, there was a lot of praying going on, praying that the spotlights would break down or go out somehow. But nobody heard your sermon last Sunday because of that tree. But now everybody is just very, very happy. And he goes, except for my wife. And I told my mother, I saw the look on her face, man. She looked mean and ornery, that her silver tree was gone and that beautiful green tree was there. Uh-huh. That's a tree you'll never forget, man. It was only there for a day. And that pastor said, it's out of here. We're putting a conventional tree in there. Good for him. Good for him. I liked that pastor. He was cool. He was cool. So that was a tree we could not forget. One more before I go. There are a lot of trees that I can't forget. I had my family up in the backcountry out in northwestern Montana. Spent a year up in the backcountry off-grid. Christmas that year, we're in this tiny little cabin, 16 by 20 foot cedar log cabin. Very rustic, very, very rustic. Old rough cut hardwood floor, planking floor. And yeah, it was very rough, very rough. Hey, Shark Home Brewing, great to see you. Well, for Christmas that year, we're way up on the mountain. We're way up in the mountains, way up. Snowed in. And I had hiked down to town, and my mother had sent us a big box of goodies for Christmas. And that was fun trying to haul that up the mountain. But got it up there. So we were having a Christmas. Didn't matter where we were. My kids were always going to have Christmas. But we needed a Christmas tree. Well, you can't have lights. There's no electricity. You know, we're off grid, totally. Totally off grid. We needed a Christmas tree. And I decided, I grabbed the buck saw, told the wife and the kids, come on, we're going for a hike. And they said, a hike? Where? I said, make sure you're bundled up good because it's going to be through the snow quite a ways. And we headed out, and they go, what are we doing? I said, we're going to get ourselves a Christmas tree. Well, to the peak of that cabin is close to 20 feet. Yeah, 16 feet. Well, we cut ourselves a nice alpine fir tree, drug that thing all the way back to the cabin, got it in there, stood it. I nailed crossboards at the base for it. We stood that thing up in the cabin. It was just huge on the one end of the cabin, and it made it all the way to the peak of the cabin. And my kids made all the decorations for it. I had hauled home. We had popcorn, you know, just had to pop it, and had popcorn. And I had gotten a couple of bags of cranberries, whole cranberries. And I had bought a big packet of colored paper, you know, construction paper. And the kids made construction paper chains that were red and green, and put that like garland all the way around that big tree. And they made all these homemade, handmade ornaments, and we covered the whole tree with everything the kids made. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. There wasn't a single light on that tree, but it's brightened up the cabin so much. I loved that tree. I loved that tree. And what I loved the most about it was the fact that all 6 of us went out in the woods, picked that tree, and it took half of us to drag that thing back to the cabin, because we were a good quarter mile or more away from the cabin where we found the tree we wanted. And we're dragging it through snow that's right up to our waists. Got it in that cabin, got it stood up. And you know, that tree held up all the way through the Christmas season, right into January. And when I pulled it out of there in January, not a single needle fell off of it. It stayed fresh all that time. And that was one of our best Christmases in my mind, most memorable. And the tree was a Christmas tree you'll never forget. Never forget. This huge, beautiful Christmas tree, and not a single modern thing on it. No lights, no tinsel, just homemade decorations on the whole tree. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. Christmas trees you'll never forget. Something you need to hang on to sometimes, you know, and it's easy to hang on to Christmas trees you'll never forget because we only have Christmas once a year. You only come in contact with Christmas trees once a year. I love Christmas trees because Christmas trees create stories. And they stick with us because it's not an everyday event. Things that happen but just once a year tend to stay with us a lot longer. And I'll tell you what, a lot of people say, what does the Christmas tree really stand for? It stands for whatever you wish it to stand for. Joy, happiness, peace, love, and in some cases, misery. Like the Norway pine that decided to shed every single needle on us. Hey, Blake Hurst, it's good to see you out there, buddy. And Lori J, it's great to see you. But I'm one that, to me, the Christmas tree is there because it brings people together. That's why we have a Christmas tree. Everybody becomes in awe over the Christmas tree, and it brings us together. And the next thing you know, we're sharing with each other rather than fighting each other. And the Christmas tree helps us do that. We don't do it often enough, but a Christmas tree will help you do that. To me, a Christmas tree is like a campfire. It draws people in, lets people be in awe of the tree and just relax and enjoy their time together. And that's what we're doing here, is getting together and enjoying our time while we can with each other. And that's, Lori J says, I was told I didn't need a Christmas tree this year because I couldn't afford it. That's a shame. That's a shame. You know what I have for a Christmas tree, folks? My Christmas tree is only 14 inches tall, about that big around. Got a few decorations on it, and a little bit of garland around it. It sits on the corner table over here. Tiny little tree. That's all I got space for. I couldn't put a regular tree in here anywhere. I couldn't put a artificial tree, or, well, we're not allowed natural trees in this building, but anything bigger than that tree, you got nowhere to put it. There's no, my place is that tiny. But I've actually, my first year in this apartment, I actually had one that was made out of real bright garland. It was pretty, but it was about 18 inches tall, about that wide, and it hung on the wall. That was my Christmas tree. I'm going to have a Christmas tree, you know. And I tell people all the time, don't take that away from people. 2 years ago, I helped 4 families have Christmas. And one of the biggest thrills for them were the Christmas trees they got. All 4 of them got beautiful Christmas trees, and all of the decorations to go with them. So Yep. The Christmas tree you'll never forget. So I hope you all have nice Christmas trees this year. If not, maybe you'll have a humorous Christmas tree story. But make good of anything that you can. That's it for tonight's show, guys. I want to wish you all a good week. Christmas season is upon us. I hope you're all having happy holidays. And watch the exit and you'll see what our next topic is. And it's hard to believe it's Monday. I mean, my days are all goofed up. So I'll see you Wednesday at 5 p.m. with this next topic. Behave yourselves, and we'll see you soon.